Hello, everyone. Welcome to the January 28th meeting of the Waynesboro Area School Board Directors. We'll start today with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ms. Kuzer, everyone is here today. So the next thing is the agenda, where we do have a couple, some that we're taking off. The first one is down under E, business. Number 5, the driver's ed proposal. That's being eliminated for tonight, as is number 6. The course selection guide is being taken off. And also, when you flip to the back of that page, number 8, we're not going to do the second reading and voting on the attendance policy. And finally, H2, we will not be reconvening after the second executive session. Is that it, Dr. Klein? Which one? Number 4.
Oh, Latin honors?
I thought we were still talking about that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right, never mind, I got
Okay.
it, I got it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so with that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next is the minutes. Anyone find anything in the minutes? Questions, corrections? If not, can we have a motion on that, please?
I so moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now it's time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to speak, please give your name and address, and try to limit your comments, please, to 5 minutes. Would anyone like to speak today? Okay, come on up to the mic, please.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Holter. I live on 8778 Kings Road. I would just like to pinpoint an address. I spoke to an email with Todd Klein and Karen, multiple other people, including Missy and Pam. I'm just concerned about the redistricting of the schools due to my children going to private babysitter. Finally found someone that I trusted out in Hooverville. And my kids are going to be subject now to go to Maori. And I was just hoping that maybe some place in your heart you could find. I know it's a big deal, and a lot of parents are going to have issues with this once we start getting the letters, because the public actually doesn't really know about this. I've talked to people, and they're like, how do you know this stuff? Well, you got to read the news. But I would just like it to maybe be addressed that maybe my kids could continue. I have one child and who goes to some of you currently, but I would just like it to maybe he could go to Hooverville if there was a place that he could just transfer to Hooverville so he could still ride the bus. And I'm also dealing with custody issues, so now I'm like, what am I going to do with my kids? I can't just drop everything I'm doing. I work a full-time job, and then on top of that, find a new babysitter, and then I'm going to have to pay for one babysitter and another babysitter. It's just unrealistic, and I wish that you guys would kind of think about daycare and reasonings with that, because the Y, like I spoke to them and they said there's not always openings. I'd have to enroll my kid now with the Y, pay for my current babysitter plus the Y, and I'm just kind of to the point where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to afford daycare and putting my kids in school.
Well, we do have the general guidelines already voted on, but in individual cases, especially if you're talking custody, you may follow up with Mr. Holtzman, Dr. Sternheim. I don't know who's going to field those questions if it's an individual case, and once you know, the buses aren't going to go out of the school district. That pretty much, I think, is pretty much in stone. But that one case, you can talk to one of them at a later date. And
Just reach out to them via email or?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to address today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak today? Okay. If not, Then we're going to move on to the first of our presentations, the first of which is Dr. Hawk. Did you want to say anything, Dr. Klein, or just have Dr. Hawk speak?
Dr. Hawk had come to me a number of months ago. I brought the issue attention to the board's attention, and he wanted to come back with the proposal of what he's offering to do with the as far as the sign with the dove. So I'm just going to turn it back over to you, Dr. Hawk.
Thank you very much. My name is Mohammed Haq. I have been here for 30 years. 20 years ago, I built this sculpture for the town of Waynesboro as a token of appreciation. And it is not just two birds, it means something. And the doves are the universal symbol of peace. And two birds together represent equality, tolerance, acceptance, and when you put those two together, it makes W, which stands for Waynesboro. And when and the purpose was just to just given as an appreciation for having me in this community and living here. But that message has been lost. People don't know what it is. And by putting the sign there, it will bring back what exactly it means and what it stands for. And that's why I'm requesting if it could be approved and we put it together.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions while Dr. Hawk is here? Clarifications or anything? Do you know what the dimensions are of the sign?
The sign itself is 2 by 8 foot.
Okay. So, at some point then, this will be a proposal that we're voting on for does it have to go through a vote at some time to do that?
Since it's a change to the facilities, to the property, you guys.
Can we do that now, or do we need to wait and have it advertised ahead of time? Does anybody feel like they need more time, or can we just do the vote today? It's up to you guys. Okay.
There is one thing I want to just add one thing to that. At the bottom part, I want to add either your logo or mascot. That idea came to me later on, so it is not
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, well then if we have a motion to approve the putting up of the sign,
I move to approve the new sign.
Second.
okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next, another presentation on the Oral Health Impact Project from Ms. Robinson.
Well, thank you everyone for having me. My name's Janelle Robinson. I'm a dental hygienist. I practice in the area. I'm licensed in Pennsylvania as a dental hygienist and as a public health practitioner, which means that I can work in school-based settings. I'm here because I was recently hired by a mobile dental service known as OHIP, which is Oral Health Impact Project. And I believe Cherie may have mentioned at a board meeting before that we are interested in providing services in the Waynesboro Area School District. And these services would be free of charge to both the school and the students. I am particularly interested in the service because I have 12 children of my own. 6 of them are currently attending area schools. I've been a dental hygienist for 23 years, and I have a strong concentration and a lot of experience with children and those with special needs. I'm finishing up my thesis research right now, and the service I work for is OHIP. It was founded in 2005. It provides services in 6 states on the East Coast, and right now I provide services to the First Start Partnerships, which is the Franklin County Head Start. So I see students, I've been to the centers here in Waynesboro, Greencastle, Chambersburg, Fannett Meadow, so we provide on-site services for preventive dental care for them. Okay, so many Pennsylvania children have dental coverage through Medicaid, but not everybody can access services. There's a variety of reasons for that. Sometimes transportation is difficult. There's not a lot of participating providers, or if there are participating providers, maybe they're not accepting new patients. And many other developed countries have had school-based dental care. It's been a standard, but in the United States, it's never really taken hold strongly, and it kind of has shown up sporadically. But with affordable care and some of the recent changes to our healthcare structure, it's becoming more and more of a need. Increases in Medicaid eligibility limits have caused more children to be eligible for Medicaid, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's more providers, because typically reimbursements are low for Medicaid recipients, and unfortunately Medicaid recipients are not always the best at making their appointments. So it's hard for dentists to take on a large Medicaid patient load because there does tend to be a lot of fallout. It can be time consuming, and it can cause issues with the schedule, and ultimately it's the children that have issues maintaining their dental health. So OHIP is, our patient base is primarily public school children who do not have a dental home. And in dentistry, we refer to a dental home as a dentist that you see regularly. So Dr. Ali and Dr. Bob are here from Covenant Dental. They have children that have been seeing them for years. They're the dental home. So their current patients would not be the patients that we would be looking to see. We are here to provide services to children who are not already accessing services, and we're really here to work as an adjunct with local dentists to help take some of the burden off for that high number of Medicaid and uninsured patients, and to make sure that these kids are getting the services that they need, and helping to take some of that load off of the area dentists. Okay, so Franklin County, PA, so you all know the statistics. 34,000 residents, give or take. About 25% of those are under 18. About 2,400 of the children in our county are Medicaid recipients, and about 1,400 have never received state-funded preventive dental services. So that's not just for Waynesboro, but that's county-wide. So when we break that down, there really are children in our school district that are not receiving the services that they need. And in talking with Cherie, she had some specific examples of students that she had tried in the past school year to locate services for, and she had a very difficult time, and it resulted in pain for the children and missed time from school. So one of the reasons that school-based care can really be ideal is we're seeing the kids in their schools where they're already comfortable with their teachers and staff that they're comfortable with. There's no transportation needed for the parents because the kids are already at school, which also helps to reduce missed appointments. And I can provide, or our service can provide, increased services to the kids that need them the most. And this service is really aimed at the kids who need this the most, the kids who are underserved. Maybe they're not receiving the support at home that they need with toothbrushing, diet support, oral health education, and kids that are at a high caries risk, or maybe they have special needs. Some children with special needs can be seen in a dental office, but they need a lot of exposures to a dental setting. When I come to their school, or a practitioner comes to their school, we can visit with them, we can stop in the classroom and say hi, we can introduce them to the equipment in multiple visits, and through providing their regular care in a setting where they're familiar, if they do need to seek care at a local dentist, it's not as upsetting as an experience, and it's more likely to be the treatment is more likely to be accepted. Okay, so one of the issues I've been hearing is it really free? Because it costs nothing for the school board, it costs nothing to the parents, so how can this possibly be free? Patients with Medicaid, CHIP, or private insurance, when we get a consent back, if they have not been seen and don't have a dental home, we are able to bill for those services, for the services that we provide. We can bill for preventive services, for oral health education, and patients that do have insurance help to take some of the burden off for those who are underinsured, but they're not necessarily given preference. And because of the large OHIP patient base in multiple states up and down the coast, some markets that OHIP is in, they're upside down on. They have a large undocumented population, but they're able to use their large patient base from all up and down the East Coast to make sure that everyone receives services regardless of income or any kind of revenue that's generated in the area. School staffing is always a concern. Are you going to need to hire more employees for this? Generally, no. In most of the schools that OHIP is in, the scheduling is done either through the school nurse, or sometimes there'll be a parent liaison or volunteer, but there's usually a contact point at the school. And what the contact point would do is forms would be sent home to the parents, the forms would be collected, and that parent contact would get the forms to our service. We would go through the different approval. I'm going to talk about the procedure later. We would create a schedule, and then we would return to that contact to pick a date that works for the students. We don't want to interfere with testing. We don't want to interfere with special programs or assemblies. Of course, we can't come on days schools are closed. So we would work with a staff person that way. So typically, the schools have not been hiring additional employees for this. They're able to find either, like I said, the school health staff that can help with that, or if parents or there's other liaisons that want to help. Space was also a concern. Cherie had said all of our equipment is portable and can be set up in a relatively small area. All the equipment I have can fit kind of like in this area from Miss Bachtel to Mr. Holtzman or smaller, and we can be anywhere. We can be in a gymnasium, we can be in a hallway that's not being used at the time, we can be set up in the school nurse's office if space permits. So just any place where we have an area we can set up a chair and a portable unit, and the only thing that we really need is access to electricity. We just have to be able to plug in the equipment. We don't need any access to water or plumbing, so it really is very portable, and just day to day or season to season, wherever the school has space or whatever's convenient for the school on any given day is where we can work. Oh, can you go back one quick? So referrals for treatment of decay. So what I've been talking about is seeing kids for a checkup. You think of a checkup, you take your kids, they have their teeth cleaned, they have the dentist checks their teeth for cavities, and if they need to, they have x-rays to look for the cavities between the teeth and fluoride applied. So this is the services that we provide, but what about the kids that have cavities? So what we would do is those patients would be referred to local dentists. Any local dentist in the area that would agree to accept this patient base or would have an interest in taking referrals, that's the first referrals that we make is to area dentists that will see them for care. We also use federally qualified health centers, and some of you might be aware the nearest one is Keystone. So Keystone in Chambersburg can take some of those patients. They're putting in a new children's dental clinic up there, so they have some additional services. There are other dentists in the area, I think York, Harrisburg, and Frederick. There are some different practices that can see children that require sedation or hospitalization services. But the first place we start is the local dentist, and we go out from there, and then the OHIP staff plus the school contact will work with the parents to follow up to make sure if they need assistance with scheduling or locating treatment that we get that done, because our biggest concern is for the children in our district to not experience dental pain and not experience time missed from school. And then, that's okay, you can leave it. Worst case scenario, Cherie was sharing with me the student that she couldn't locate care for a protracted amount of time. OHIP also has mobile dentists. It's like an RV they bring down where they can do the dental work. The nearest place that they would bring the mobile dental unit from is Pittsburgh. So it's a long trip for them, but if they need it, then they'll do it. They'll schedule days, they'll come down, bring the dentist down, they'll do all the treatment in the mobile clinic, but their preference is to use local and area dentists. Bringing the dentist down it's definitely something they'll do. They're not going to let any student not go with untreated decay or dental issues, but that's not their preference to bring all the equipment down from that distance. Okay, so how will parents make appointments for students if the board decides that this is an appropriate service for our district? So consent forms will be sent home with every student in whatever schools we decide. If we want to start with just an elementary school, if we want to do all the schools, elementary through high school, every student gets a form home, a consent form. It says the dentist is coming to your school. If you're interested, you complete your child's name, birth date. There's a medical history questions. There's an area to fill in any insurance information if applicable, and then a consent line to sign for services. The students will then return the forms to the school. Alternatively, OHIP does have a website, and the parents can fill this out online, and it will be submitted under the school's information, the appropriate school's information. So we'll have that to add them to the schedule. So once those are collected, it goes back to the OHIP offices. We look at the treatment histories. Insurance companies and Medicaid keep a database of where patients have been seen and what services have been billed for. So if we get a consent back for somebody that Covenant Dental has been seeing every 6 months and they just had a cleaning 3 months ago, well, we know that child has a dental home, so they would not be identified for services. So we would just send a note home. Thank you for your interest. Please continue to receive care at your dentist. If your needs change, please let us know. So we try to prevent that overlap. Then once we have numbers, so if some of you returns their papers, they have 50 students that need services. Then we get a hold of the contact that some of you are here at the board, and we say we have 50 students. We're going to need 2 or 3 days. Let's pick some days on the calendar, and then we'll pick, maybe we're going to do kindergarten and first grade on a day, second and third, on from there. And then on that day, we come and we set up the equipment, and the contact or the liaison just calls the students down. The students are just called in the order that the person at the school schedules them. So we don't call all of the private insurance first, and then all the Medicaid, and then if there's time that it's the underinsured kids. If the kid has returned a form and they're identified that they have a need for services, meaning they don't have a dental home, they're on the schedule, they're seen. We provide their services. And then if a student isn't there on a day that they're scheduled, we just see them the next day that we're there. So it's not like we're going to see Joe Smith at 8:15 on Tuesday, and if he shows up late for school, well, he's missed his appointment and he waits 6 months. When the student is there, the student is there, and that's when we will see them. All right? Okay, so that's a little bit of information just from my conversations with Cherie. She has some forms to pass out. It's just a sample of what we would send home with the students that we see. We make sure that we communicate with the parents, and we have a report. It's just a form in triplicate where there was one for the parent and one for the school to keep on file for their records. And I tried to just make a brief presentation based on questions that I had received from Cherie, but she said that there was probably other questions from the board. So let me know if there's anything I can help with.
Okay, who has a question?
I do.
Okay.
When you come out to provide service, do you bring a van and have all your equipment mounted within the van and work out of the van?
No. All of my equipment is on a cart. I actually bring it into the school physically, and I set it up inside of the school itself. So we would actually be in the school. So there's a chair, it's like a souped up lawn chair, you could say. I unfold the chair. There's a suitcase that opens up, and it has a motor and a compressor with the suction and the polisher. And then I have the computer equipment for the intraoral camera and the x-rays. So all that comes into the schools. Yeah, we've got it down to a science. It's actually not too bad.
Did you say we have a couple dentists here?
Yeah, I recognize Dr. Bob Zimmerman, and Dr. Ali is here, and then is anyone else a dentist? Yeah, Dr. Ray. I had never met you before, but I have heard the name. Yeah.
I was just curious any thoughts from you guys as you listen, if you have any thoughts about it.
Well, the thought that I have, this is a great program.
Would you speak up, please?
If you're not providing actual fillings, that you have to refer them out to a local dentist. Those that are being seen for hygiene and cavities being diagnosed,
that's a great question. So Dr. Ray's question, he's basically speaking to providing preventive services is great, but is it really going to meet the needs, the restorative needs? Is that your question? So the first part, my first answer to that would be that we would have a much better chance of identifying the children who need restorative, and we would then have a starting point to follow up and provide services to families and reach out to families. If it seems like it's an area where we need further outreach or further parent support, we could always return to the board and say, well, maybe we need to work on this program or that program. One of the main goals of OHIP is to prevent decay. As a dentist and dental, we know that childhood decay is 100% preventable. So we have a large number of children who are not receiving preventive services, presumably with a large amount of decay that needs to be treated, but that's the cycle we want to stop, because as a community we can do better for our children. So initially we may be diagnosing a lot of decay, but hopefully over time we'll see those numbers start to drop. And as we can provide sealants in schools, fluoride treatments, better oral health education, then we would really bring that need down in our community. I hope that does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
I think you told me the exams are done by a dentist over the internet.
Correct. So what we use is what's called a teledentistry model or a telehealth model, which is fairly new in the United States in general. Some of you may have with your health insurance where you have access to a doctor on demand. I don't know if you've ever seen where you can visit a doctor on your phone, he looks at your throat, gives you, So we use a telehealth model. So there's a dentist at a remote location. I have a computer with me. The dentist is doing all of the diagnosing and charting through an intraoral camera. So I'm seeing the patient, I tell the dentist what I'm seeing, I'm taking pictures with the intraoral camera, and the dentist is the one that diagnoses the decay, which I think was also one of Dr. Ray's questions, because in Pennsylvania, dental hygienists can't diagnose decay. So no matter how many times I've looked at a cavity legally, I can't say it's a cavity. But so the children are being seen by a dentist. The dentist needs to see the children once a year, and after the dentist sees the children, I can come in and provide whatever services are needed without having the dentist present or via the telemodel. So if we have a child with a lot of decay, the dentist diagnoses, we're going to make the parent aware, make referrals, and try to locate care locally for the child, and then I can start working with the child on better health care, making sure they have access to fluoride, placing sealants on molars that do not yet have decay, and hopefully reducing the amount of decay for that child. But yes, the telehealth model, a dentist will be the one that sees and diagnoses whether or not there is decay present.
Two other questions.
Yes.
One is, with the child abuse laws that came out several years ago and welfare courts and stuff, we're required to follow up when we make diagnoses and there's infection and pain there, the parents aren't following through, and a whole system that actually Dr. Ray worked up with the school district to help us. So are you guys going to take over the responsibility to make sure those cases are reported to the state if they're not followed up by the parents? Are you taking that responsibility off of the school district or whoever else?
Yeah, so when we're the ones that are providing that dental care, ultimately our service, OHIP, becomes the dental home for the child. So now we have a child who did not have a dental home now has a dental home. So there are different reporting procedures for untreated dental decay because it is painful for children and it causes lost time from school. So yes, we don't want kids walking around with decay, and that is something that's followed through by the state. So yeah, we would report that. Whatever the board standards are, hopefully, and I know in Covenant there's a process where the first choice is to work with the parent to meet the need. That's always the first choice. The plan is not to come in, identify who needs to be reported, and then overwhelm social services. It would be a long, similar to what we would do. But yes, that would.
But you would take that responsibility. That was the question.
Yes, the OHIP would be responsible for making those reports.
Okay, and the only other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to talk to local dentists in a rural area like Waynesboro that have this program in place and get feedback from them as to how well it's working. And actually, and for the school district, be able to talk to that school district. And I realize it's only Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, which is a lot different than Waynesboro, but in the other 6 states that you're in, or the other 5 states on the East Coast, if there's a rural area like this, I'd like just to see how it's working.
In Pennsylvania, OHIP is in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Lancaster County, Bucks County. There's several rural communities that they're in. There's many counties in Pennsylvania.
Give us that information.
Yes, yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, so we're seeing this presentation because Cherie had difficulty finding help for a locally for a student. You know, it does sound great to be able to diagnose these things.
Mhm.
How about then, so they need treatment.
Mhm.
We can't find help locally for that.
Mhm.
How long is this student gonna have to wait until somebody comes from Pittsburgh for treatment?
Well, I mean, that would depend on the case. We do have dentists locally that can see the children that are in pain. If a local practice is not able to see them right away, we have a practice in Frederick that will see them the same day. They can provide sedation and they have hospital privileges and they accept all the Pennsylvania Medicaid and they do take uninsured patients. There's the federally qualified health center I had mentioned in Chambersburg. They have all the same services and hospital privileges at Chambersburg. So I think with connections in the dental community, additional support and resources, that this collaboration with the dental community, a public health service, and the school, that's really going to make what Cherie ran into. I think it's really going to eliminate that. It's going to overcome a lot of the hurdles. And the way that Cherie and I came in contact was I was hired to provide services to the First Start Partnerships, and First Start Partnerships now provides the Head Start services in the public schools. So then that became a little bit of a, where do we go with this? Do I come to the public schools on behalf of First Start Partnerships, or is this now a Board of Ed issue? And First Start Partnerships decided, this is not necessarily on the record, we're not going to provide dental services to those kids, even though they're Head Start students, and that's a federal mandate that we have to provide dental preventive services and dental support. So then, trying to overcome that hurdle, start talking to different parents in the area, noticing different things in the community. As a parent, there's more of a need here than just those Head Start students, and I really think that this is a service that our area really needs and is really going to use. I feel strongly about that.
Just as a follow-up, and I'm not trying to create problems.
Not at all.
But you said before that they would send out a van.
Yes.
All
Yes.
equipped. Now you're telling me that, okay, so they needed, have immediate need, would have to go to Frederick or Chambersburg. We've got Medicaid patients or kids whose families could not get them to those places.
Sure.
And I think the advantage of this would be, if you have a van being able to come in and treat this kid, actually here, that would be great.
Sure.
But now you're saying,
I can contact OHIP and I can get their time frame from them if that would help. I can ask that very specific question and get in a number of days or hours. I'll get that information for you because I understand exactly what you're saying. The whole point is to treat the children where they are, to eliminate the transportation barriers, but now we might have kids that need to be transported. So I do hear what you're saying. So I will ask that specific question and I'll make sure that I get the answer to Cherie, and that we can get that to you. Is that okay? Does that sound okay, Cherie? Yeah.
Did I understand you said our First Start kids, first choice children you're not seeing now?
The First Start Partnership children
Yes.
that are in the public schools.
Right.
So there's classrooms at Maury, at the high school.
Right.
They do not receive preventive dental services unless the parents take them somewhere and are getting them preventive dental services. So the children whose parents are not taking them for services are out of compliance. And that's just an area that's just kind of been left as a gap.
I can explain what's going on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's happening is that First Start Partnerships is the subcontractor for our pre-K counts classes, and that's why they don't contract with that, because those kids belong to us. but Pre-K Counts grant is paying for those classes. First Start Partnership runs those classes for us.
Right.
So that's why they wouldn't supply it through their end of it.
Right.
What we have worked out, and we're working out right now through Keystone Health, is that they're actually going to do that dental plan for the grant through or for those kids, the Pre-K Counts kids. So really, the only area that we're kind of working with you guys is kindergarten through 12, because the pre-Ks are already done through Keystone Health.
Right.
Is that?
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
I would like to hear from another school district before
Okay.
we make the decision.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea to see how it works
Well,
for
we-
everybody
We
else.
certainly can wait till another meeting to vote. I hope everybody feels comfortable. Dr.
Yeah,
Royer?
we didn't put it on the agenda for that reason, to give you some time.
I mean, I think it sounds like a great idea. I have some of the same questions, but I think that, I guess my question is, our nurses, we don't have a nurse in every building, and I'm not sure how much extra time our nurses have to do anything. So I don't know what the solution is, but have the nurses been talked to at all about this?
No.
I'm looking at you, Rita, so.
No,
Yeah,
not
and
yet.
I don't believe so. I mean, we,
I can speak to that.
okay,
but
Sheree
we've
can
been-
speak to that.
I have had conversations with Ms. Barnhart, and she has shared data. She is very supportive of it. I was just pulling that up here. So just some data that she shared since the beginning of the school year. We had a number of students who had school dental exams this year. Some were missed due to students being absent, but in our elementary buildings and also in WAMS, we had the number of students who were requested, their parents requested the dental exam was 56 students among those buildings. The number of students who had school dental exam, again, some were missed, that was 48 students. The number of students who were referred to the family dentist for treatment, cavities, etc., that was 22 students. So it was about 45% students examined who were then referred for treatment. So what we would be asking, in talking with Ms. Barnhart, what we would be asking the nurse to do is basically what they're already doing. They're scheduling the exams and then, tracking the data of students being referred out. So it's, my understanding is that that's something that's already in place of what they do under their umbrella.
And I would never question that she wouldn't be supportive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All our nurses are
Yeah.
supportive of anything. I guess I'm just envisioning that, parents call and have questions and, there's things like that, like who's the one, I mean, if they
Sure.
feel they can handle it, that's great. I'm glad somebody
Yeah.
asked the question.
Yeah.
But I just imagine there's like paperwork and follow-ups.
Well,
and-
all that would, my understanding is that would be between the parent and OHIP.
Yes.
Okay.
So it only comes back to kindergarten, come down for your dental exams, first grade next, which we're already filtering into buildings.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you, Sheree.
Anybody else? Okay, so we'll take a look at this, everybody can think about it, ask questions over the next couple weeks before we vote on it, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next presentation are some administrators talking about first choice.
They don't want it. That's another dentist.
It's really hot in here.
Okay, whenever you are ready.
So we are here. I'm very loud.
We do have the graphics to point at, so
They've rehearsed this, Mr. Erickson, so we're. Mike, Megan, thank you.
This is like very, I don't like, okay.
Megan, I think it's because it's official record is the video of the meeting, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are here to talk about First Choice and what it looks like right now and kind of our journey so far. We presented at the Rotary Club a little while ago, and then a lot of conversation was had that we're out presenting to the community and we haven't presented to you all and kind of given you an update as to what we're doing. So first question, and I think I know the answer to this based on the audience since our audience all left, but raise your hand if you went to college. Is the first question. So how many people went to college? Okay. The second question would be how many of you worked or are still working in the field in which you went to college for? It's unfair. General public, that doesn't work. What we found in our research, 27% of college graduates are actually working in the field in which they went to school for or got a degree in. So that kind of makes us step back and say, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? So as a district, we've had a lot of conversation about what do we want this to look like? How can it be different? We said, well, we want our kids to do what they want to do when they come out. So that led to that idea of First Choice. Dr. Klein kind of tossed the ball out and said, invent the game. And so we've all been inventing. So we've been through many, many, many iterations of what First Choice looks like, what it could look like, where it is now, where it could go. And we now have a First Choice core team made up of administrators, teachers, and the consultants that we work with sometimes from IU8, Dr. Orndorff, Dr. Butler, Dr. Crawford, just kind of giving some input and trying to help us mold the game a little bit and reflect on whether it's working, not working, what do we want to tweak. And we're all having a lot of conversation together. So we all started kind of swimming in the same pool, going in a lot of directions. I think we're finally in the same end of the pool, all starting to go. Some of us just dove in. That would be the two of us, which is I think how we got nominated to be here. We're like, sweet, let's jump. And then now what's going to happen next? So Emily and I are going to talk to you about what the elementary is doing at this point in terms of First Choice, just little nuggets. There's a lot more going on than what we're going to talk about. And then we'll hand it over to middle school and high school and kind of take you on the journey from K to 12 in terms of what we're doing right now. So I'll turn it over to Emily.
So with that being said, part of that journey was really creating a definition of what First Choice is. And I would say, you know, and these guys can chime in, it was a long path to get to the definition that we have. And I would not tell you that the definition is, you know, lock solid by any means. We're continually looking at it. We're continually tweaking it to ensure that the definition is really the vision that we want to put out there. So with that being said, at this point in time, our Waynesboro School District definition of First Choice is creating a culture which allows learners to flourish by connecting them to individualized experiences necessary to take ownership of learning and achieving post-graduation goals. Okay, so with that being said, many of you have probably seen this triangle before. Okay, if you have, please humor me because I'm going to explain a little bit of a lot of the elements that are on it to you. But when we're explaining this in the public, to our staff, to parents, we're really pinpointing the three pillars, okay? And the three pillars of what we are viewing as a solid foundation for our K-12 learners is an academic pillar, the career pillar, and the whole child pillar. Because for the student to get to the end game of First Choice, we need to have a solid foundation at every level in those three pillars. Okay, and when you're looking at the difference between the three pillars, you'll notice that the lines are dotted. Okay, that is very purposeful because between each pillar, those lines may fluctuate based on the learner. Some learners may need less in the academic pillar, but may need substantially more in the whole child pillar. This is meant to be individualized and allow us to adjust to what every one of our learners needs. You will also notice that between the elementary, the middle, and the high school level as well, that those lines are also dotted, and that is intentional too, because not all of our children develop at the same level. So for some students, you know, those lines may move and tweak, but again, it all goes back to every individual student and what they need with that end goal in mind. Okay?
So
we're going to talk about the academic pillar first. You may have noticed that Emily is saying the word learners. If you're watching any of our websites and any of that, you're seeing learners, learners, learners. And if you are like my husband or my mother, who's in Philadelphia, what is this learners and why are you suddenly, like, why can't you just call them students? It's an intentional change. The idea that students are not just passively sitting and getting. That's what we view as student, is that we're giving you what we want to give you, whereas a learner is an active participant in what's going on. So it's kind of an intentional shift that when we're trying to train our teachers and our learners themselves to be using that vocabulary, it's hopefully causing an intentional shift internally as well, that they're realizing that they need to be a more active participant. And getting that kind of self-advocacy piece going, having some awareness of who they are, what they want, what they're good at, what their strengths and needs might be. So when we look at the academic pillar, the goal for the elementary level is to build basic skills and knowledge, and we've said our learners need to leave prepared to pivot. We want them ready to change directions as those opportunities come out, and so we are trying to expose them to more things than they maybe have been exposed to in the past, recognizing that their future is things that probably don't even exist right now, so we want to give them as much exposure as we can. So some of the things that we're doing right now at the elementary level, we've changed our structures with pilot programs in reading and math in several of the buildings. We're looking at kind of doing some of the Jan Richardson model called RISE, where kids are moving a little bit differently, really focusing in on flexible grouping, not just around standardized test scores, which we've done to some level all the way through. And we're teaming a little bit differently. I have some self-contained classrooms at Fairview in 4th and 5th grade this year, which we have not done for many years. But with the makeup of 5 on a grade level, we really found that the 3 team was not working. So we have pushed out the idea this year of 2 teams of 2 in a self-contained classroom, and it is going very well right now. We're seeing both academic and social emotional gains from that. We also have exploration and development of personalized learning options. So we're really trying to give kids more opportunities to say, I'm interested in this, let me kind of ride that train to the end. And there's just little pieces of it that are happening right now, because at the elementary world, we're still trying to keep them broad, but we're trying to give them more of an opportunity to do that and have a little more personalization. Also at the state level, we are, as a district, involved in a Jerry Thompson case study through Patan on analysis of academic text, and really looking at the idea that we're not preparing them for the test, but we are preparing them to be analyzers of everything, not just text, and really trying to embed that idea of kind of that cause and effect, breaking things down, putting them back together, how do things work, creating critical thinkers. So that's some of the academic things that we have going on right now at the elementary level.
So the second pillar is the career pillar, and at the elementary level, the goal is exploration and exposure to options. You know, as Mr. Zimmerman mentioned before, we do live in a rural area, and a lot of the jobs that are out there, a lot of our children don't know they exist at this point. You know, especially when we're talking computer science jobs that are in high demand. They're just not aware of what's out there. So our goal is, you know, obviously not necessarily to drive any kid to one career, but expose them to the options that they have, to then allow them to make those decisions. So in order to do that, at the elementary level, we're using 2 main platforms. The first is our project team, which is also a social emotional learning program, but the entire program has a career component. So we have the 6 characters that exemplify 6 different characteristics, like Harper is helping others, but those characters have to evolve to include different career clusters like human services. So when we are doing the project team days and we're working on those social emotional components, we're also incorporating in that career element as well. In addition to that, we did get Smart Futures. So our students are up and running on Smart Futures. It's operating slightly different in every building. We, you know, had to problem solve a little bit in the beginning with some of our younger students doing it. But what we're finding is when they have their Smart Future days, they really are enjoying it. It's a lot more it's kind of gamified for kids. So they're not necessarily, you know, looking at it as career exploration or more of I'm playing a game and I get to learn about different careers. And with the youngest kid, they're driving a car around town and they're getting to visit all the different professionals in the town. So that is working really well. In addition to that, we had a really unique opportunity that started last year with our Franklin County Career and Tech Center. They reached out to us and extended the opportunity for our 5th grade students to come and tour the facility. What we are finding and what they have kind of found is the middle school years are really critical when it comes to grades, attendance, and those type of things to get in. It is very competitive to get in. So what they are trying to do is expose the students before they get to middle school to what their expectations are and what they offer, so that as the students are transitioning to middle school, if it's something that they want, they know the expectations before they get into middle school, and perhaps it might be too late, okay? The other thing that some of our buildings are working on continually is local partnerships with, you know, employers, professionals to come in to speak to the kids about what they do, using every opportunity that we can. All of our buildings have kind of dabbled and explored the idea of passion time and how we can make that happen. I don't think any of us have gotten it up and running yet, but that would simply be an opportunity at the elementary level where students K to 5 would be mixed and get to choose, you know, something that they're passionate about and explore. If we had a teacher who was very passionate about saving the manatees, you know, kids from K to 5 also might be interested in that and would get to spend a half an hour with her learning about manatees, learning about conservation, all of those things. So that is something else we've talked about that we're looking at.
So the last component of first choice of our pillar, or our last pillar, is the whole child pillar. So as Emily mentioned, Project Team is something that we are really pushing back out this year. Our goal at the elementary level for whole child is building strong social, emotional, and mental foundations so that learners develop agency and soft skills for success. So with Project Team, it has the career component that the 6 career clusters are aligned to what the middle school and high school are doing. So that has worked out very well, and we've really kind of gone in and looked at that to make sure that there's some connection that's going all the way up. And each of the characters and foundations also have a color at the elementary level. So today was Twisted Tuesday at Fairview. It's Philo Month, in case anyone's wondering. We're working on problem solving. So our PTO designed and created t-shirts for each of the characters. Our whole building is sorted into houses by character. They do a whole lot of social emotional learning through that. Because the platform provides lessons to the teachers. So we pay for the platform, and then the teachers can go in and they're pulling down ready-made lessons, book lists around those foundations. All those kind of components are already there for them. There is an avatar kind of function in there. We're not really utilizing that at this point, but there are a lot of resources, and we're also doing quarterly calls with the company where they're kind of like, what are your problems? How can we troubleshoot with you and really try to get things rolling as smoothly as we can. So it's been a game changer in our building this year in particular. I think our Dr. Klein's going to share some discipline data with you at some point. It's pretty staggering right now in terms of where we are as a building, and a lot of it I think is around the social emotional component that we're really focusing on. We are also very blessed at the Fairview and at Williams, which I'm sure Erin will touch on, to have the Inspire classrooms. That has been a game changer. So thank you very, very, very much. From myself as an administrator, from the teachers in the building, from the parents, from the students, learners, from everyone that is in there. It really has made them back into learners to help settle down a lot of the building. So those kids are getting what they need, but it's also kind of helping to bring the temperature down all the way around so that everybody can focus in more on what they need. And it's reinvigorated a lot of teachers as well. And I think the other nice component of it is the therapist that is in that classroom is able to consult with our other teachers. She can go in and do an observation and say, hey, did you try this? Did you try that? So she's a dispassionate observer, shall we say, of that classroom. So while we have Nikki Toston, who is phenomenal at going in and doing that as a behavioral specialist, there's one of her. So now we kind of got a different angle, you know, different lens that Brooke can come in and do that as well. So that's wonderful. In addition, Whole Child, we're doing a lot of growth mindset trainings. Some of the buildings are doing a book study on mindset by Carol Dweck, which if you've been around for a while, you know all about that. We're really trying to push that idea of yet and the power of yet. I may not be able to do it yet, but I will get there. We have pilot programs running in all of the buildings around some mindfulness things, de-escalation ideas, calming corners, really trying to help teach kids self-regulation, recognizing that they're not necessarily coming with that, because a lot of parents aren't coming with that. So we're really just trying to help make sure that they're getting those skills purposefully. Mr. Rogers and Emotional ABC are both happening in kindergarten, so half of the classrooms are doing Emotional ABCs, which is a program, and half of them are doing Mr. Rogers, just to see the impact. If you would like to be fascinated, go down to kindergarten about 10 minutes before Mr. Rogers starts, and then go back in about 10 minutes after Mr. Rogers. And you're like, are you the same children? Because what is happening? They are mesmerized. They're like, it's amazing. You're like, you were just like on the desk a minute ago. What is happening? So it's wonderful to see them. I did say they might have a little bit of disfluency later, because it's like old Mr. Rogers, young Mr. Rogers. Wait, now he's old again. Now he's in the middle. So, but it's wonderful the way that the kids are really connecting and using some of that language, and the teachers are using it. And we have our ESAP program running in all of the buildings that we are lucky to have Healthy Communities Partnerships has paired with us, and they have a SAP liaison that comes into each of the buildings and helps us help families access services. That is a huge load off of our counselors to try to get some more help accessing those community resources that do exist, even though they're few and far between. That's at least another person, and those liaisons can also meet with kids. I think it's 6 times that they can provide some counseling as well and try to help the families. And other outside services, Check and Connect is a truancy program that we have for 5th graders at Maury and Fairview, and then it carries up to the middle school. We have Laurel Life school-based counseling that we have maxed out multiple times in our building. They've sent us more. And we have the social workers, which right now we're still looking for somebody for Fairview and Maury, but we have 1 of our 2 positions filled, so fingers crossed we'll get the other one filled. So at this point, all of those whole child things are really a wonderful emphasis at the elementary level for the students and for the teachers. I think the teachers are very excited to be able to really kind of focus back in on some of that and reconnect to building those skills. So hopefully we're educating the heart, not just the mind, at the elementary level. So with that being said, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Taylor from the middle school to talk about how First Choice moves up the ladder.
To Mrs. McGuire's point, some of the data I looked at initially, I think, and if I remember correctly, a referral report was listed as both classroom issue and office referral, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I think by the midpoint, there were 372 referrals either way. And by the same point this year, we were at 40.
Big change.
Okay, good evening. Obviously, I'm going to highlight First Choice at WAMS. A lot of the work we've been doing at WAMS is chipping away what we call weight-bearing walls. So we actually were training our staff on what weight-bearing walls was at our last in-service. And basically, a weight-bearing wall that we refer to is something that's preventing us from doing what we want to be able to do with First Choice in the district. For example, could be something with the schedule, could be instructional practices, could be something that's getting in the way from allowing us to really accomplish our goal of First Choice. So basically what we're referring to is we want to break down those walls, but our goal right now is to start chipping away. So some of the things we've already been working from the academic pillar standpoint at WAMS, and once again looking at one of those weight-bearing walls, even though we believe in teaming at the middle school, it has actually sort of been a disadvantage in some cases, especially in 8th grade with our schedule, just allowing all the students to be able to take advantage of some of the accelerated courses we're taking. So next year in 8th grade, we are going to not have teaming to allow us to help even do more with this types of offerings from courses. And our goal eventually is really to allow the students, once they get to the high school, to have accomplished some of the credit requirements, so they'll be able to take advantage of some of the other programs that Mr. Pappas will be able to talk about. So, for example, in 6th grade, we're now offering pre-algebra to our students who qualify, going through a process to ensure that they have those math skills to be successful, coming the whole way through the elementary program. We're offering algebra, geometry, a world language, and accelerated ELA in 8th grade, algebra in 7th grade that are all high school credits. So once again, if you're a middle school student who takes those 4 courses coming through, you're now leaving WAMS with 4 high school credits. So once again, making sure those students have those skills. There's certain prerequisites, certain requirements that students have to meet before they do those different courses. We do offer, for the languages, we offer right now currently 2 Spanish sections. We offer a section of French and a section of German to our students. Spanish being the most popular of all those. One of the things that we still are currently working on at the middle school to help with the schedule part of it is we do offer our WIN period, which basically stands for what I need. So right now we're allowing our students to be able to choose based on their interest. For those students who have demonstrated proficiency within ELA and math, we're going back and analyzing that question to ourselves also for next year is, do we want to allow all of our students in the building to be able to have that opportunity? One of the things in the way right now is the schedule itself with our related arts, the way it works. Some of our students don't have a full ability to pick from all the offerings. So our goal would be is if we have 15 different WIN courses, our students will be having an opportunity to be able to pick from all 15. So we're continuing to work through that process. One of the things we're currently working on that we talked about at the academic committee a couple of times is the development of a brick and mortar cyber option at WAMS. So we do have students who we believe really the cyber option is a good option for them. However, we're worried about not being at school and getting that support, having some kind of schedule to allow them to accomplish the milestones we need to for them to finish the courses. We're working on how that's going to look at WAMS. We do think we have a model that's going to work. Our numbers are going to have to start out very low, but we do believe it's something that some of our students will be able to take advantage of in the future. One of the things I know that we were talking about simply last night with a couple of you was attendance. We do believe that this is going to help us with attendance because we do believe some of our students aren't coming to school for some social different reasons, and we believe this would be a huge help to allow them to sometimes often make a transition back. Go to the next slide. So some of the other academic items that we're working on for First Choice at WAMS, one of the biggest things we want to work on is creating a personalized learning pathway for all of our students. No matter who the student is at WAMS, we want to make sure we're meeting that child where they're at. So an acronym that we're actually using district-wide, but we've been working heavily on at WAMS is called MAP, which basically stands for Mastery, Agency, and Purpose. So we want to ensure we're meeting our students where they're at and they're mastering those skills within our curriculum of where that student is, not necessarily the grade level that they're in. Agency, we want to teach the students. This is something we want to make sure that we're teaching to them because they're not necessarily doing it themselves, is advocate with some agency of what they want to, how they want to learn, what's the best way for them to learn, which is part of Mr. Burkall's First Choice class, is them learning that process. How do they best learn so that they can select that during class when they're receiving instruction. And then purpose, why is it important for them to learn? How are we attaching that to ultimately to their career or what they're going to need to do to be able to get to that career? Why is it important for that student? Why are we asking to learn it? And why are we teaching it? One of the things we worked on, especially our last professional development, and we're trying to make a priority at WAMS is, from our standpoint of admin, we're trying to model that MAP acronym to our staff by allowing our professional development to be modeled that way too. So they have some voice and choice, for example, allowing them to be able to pick what sessions they want to go to, allow us to give us exactly what sessions they want to be able to pick from. And that last in-service we had was overwhelmingly great remarks about it, and I believe that's one of the reasons why we allowed them to be able to pick what they wanted to be able to learn about. We were awarded a grant with the admin and some staff that worked on it last year. We were awarded a grant for $35,000. If you've been to WAMS recently, you'll see the 3D printers located in the library, which has been a big hit for our students. So one of those options that our students can pick from when they're using their agency in the classroom is they can now choose to design something on the 3D printer that would demonstrate their proficiency versus just simply taking an assessment or more of a traditional type of project. And that, like I said, once again, the students have been using those to the point actually where we have had to back off a little bit from a filament standpoint. One of the other new features in the library that we continue to make better is our one-button recording studio, that our students are able to go in there and be able to record, once again, their projects. It's actually really, it's really neat just how creative some of the students have been in that room with some of the projects. Maybe if I get given an opportunity, we can share some of those with you, because it's amazing. Even sometimes when we not only are doing a traditional project we're recording, but allowing the students to reflect on the project they submitted is very interesting, because sometimes hearing their thought process and what they would have done differently is sometimes more powerful than the actual project itself. Also, we part of that grant, we bought some spheros, which goes along with coding. So our students are practicing coding with those, something that once again has continued to be important for our students to at least have some type of experience at the middle school, so when they get to the high school they can continue to expand upon those. Designing with Tinkercad, specifically in our STEM course, and also we now have several drones that we're actually allowing the students to experience some opportunities and some lessons with that in our computer applications course. Megan already talked about growth mindset. Well, this is something that we really believe is really important at WAMS, is helping our students understand it's not necessarily about the grade they're getting. And this is maybe more important, back to that previous slide, for those students who are going to take some of those high school courses. We're finding that it's the first time that some of those higher achieving students have been challenged, specifically in geometry. If you talk to any of our 8th grade math teachers, they will tell you that some of them struggle because we're pushing them for the first time. And it goes back to all of a sudden, well, I'm just not good at math. Even though they're sitting in geometry, their mindset goes there. So our goal is for them to understand, we want you to grow as a student, and everyone can grow. And it doesn't mean that you're not necessarily good at it. The goal is for you to continue to improve. So one of the biggest things that we're trying to do there is we're trying to create sort of an advisory period during Braze Block that we're going to start setting goals. This won't happen really until next year. We're working on some of the process yet, but the students will actually have an opportunity with the Braze Block teacher to be able to set goals, monitor those goals, and actually get an opportunity to talk about, which I'm going to share with you in a second here, some of the things along with careers itself, to have some reflection on that. Typically some of those conversations that are happening around the dinner table sometimes with their families. So, whole child at WAMS. One of the things that Mr. DeAngis has worked very hard on this year is designing our first Friday lessons, which are based on, probably in the past you would have referred to them as soft skills, some of those employability types of skills that we want our students to leave WASD with. We're designing some lessons specifically working on those skills, and then also working heavily on, for example, some of that discipline data, not just as what is the data numbers, but what is the data telling us as far as location, what is the actual referral for, so that we can actually work on those specific lessons to address where the gaps are with our students with some of those skills. We're running many different social skills groups through our Healthy Communities partnership with our liaison and with Healthy Communities, our school counselors, our new social worker at the secondary level during WIN, which once again, that's why that period is so important, because that's really what those students need. It's an opportunity not to pull them out of their core academic classes. Check and Connect, we already talked about. We've had a lot of success, specifically last year, reducing our attendance concerns at WAMS. Still need to work on getting our excuse in within 3 days, which sometimes goes along with being middle school students. So we're working on that process still, but that has been a huge success for us. Megan, once again, already thanked you for the Inspire Classroom. I'll follow her lead on that. We've had a lot of success within the building with allowing those students to receive the therapeutic help they need. We had to work on a lot of things within that classroom, do some training alongside Laurel Life with those staff members in there. We're finally now getting some students out, which I'm really proud of. We have our first student who's out full time, and then just about every other student is out for at least one period. So we're making some success with those students. Keep in mind, I don't have necessarily the data, but there's probably, just with those students that are in that program, we're probably talking about 200 probably referrals just from those students last year. So it's awesome having that program in our hands. One of the things we're looking at doing next year is trying to partner our emotional support classroom and around the same space, so we can take advantage of having that master level therapist there, so the two programs can work together. And once again, Megan already talked about our Little Life Therapy. I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but we have lots of students who are taking advantage. And the great part about it is we have students who have no insurance, state insurance, and private insurance, which has been a big issue for us in the past, not having the therapist that could receive all those different levels of payment. Once again, some other things along with whole choice at WAMS. Our school social worker has been a big success for us this year, helping us go out and do home visits. Often, sometimes when the admin would do a home visit, there will be answers that we would not have necessarily the contact information. That's been very helpful. Brace Bucks, just a reinforcer for our students who are doing a great job, allowing them to be able to be rewarded for doing that and able to purchase things, anything from movies during lunch to after school movies to dodgeball, whatever we offer the students. There's a menu of opportunities for them. Our target intervention tickets, that's going back to that discipline data. When, for example, if we knew we had an issue within a hallway, specifically in the building, we were able to do some target interventions, giving tickets out for the correct behavior within those areas. Once again, I know sometimes people think, well, does that really work with middle school students? It really does if they buy into what they're working for as far as what they're receiving back for those tickets. Our MTSS meetings, once again, focusing on those students who are not responding to those Tier 1 supports. Once again, it's one of those Tier 2, Tier 3 types of supports that we have. Check-in, check-out, our mentor program, which has been a huge success, once again, that we continue to expand each year at WAMS. And then our ISD process, which we've had in place for a long time, making sure that we've tried everything we could before they come over and are evaluated by our school psychologist. We want to make sure that if we can make them successful without actually going through that process, we attempt to do that each time. And careers, one of the things I'll highlight real quick for you that I know you've heard a lot about that I want to share, the one hand that I gave for you is, you've heard about a new program that we put in place this year called Smart Futures. We actually purchased that. That is primarily what Mr. Burkhall's first choice class is based on. So basically, when a student is done with his course as an 8th grader, basically what they do is they build a portfolio. And this will continue to evolve once a student has been with us for 3 years and works in Mike's class. But basically, if you flip through to the back 2 pages, actually it's the 4th page from the back, basically the goal is, it starts to allow them to select what their interests, where they lie, to start connecting those into work values and then eventually into their careers. So as you flip through there, you'll actually see, for example, this student's favorite careers of having the opportunity to be able to study. We have had several people come in and visit that room each rotation we do. For example, once again, they're in this class for 26 days with Mr. Burkhall, so he tries to bring as many people in as he possibly can. They use Smart Futures to connect with all kinds of other resources, to hear from professionals, but the goal is for them to start selecting their careers, to ultimately try to pick out what their career clusters are, which then goes along with the course handbook that's at the high school, so they can start making those choices there. So just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to see what they're doing in that class, since it's new to WAMS and a new program to us. So once again, we created that first choice course with Mr. Burkhall, which I personally believe is one of the strengths to a first choice is our students are starting to figure out there's a reason why we're in school. Instead of just coming to school and, as I call it sometimes, playing school because you have to, they're starting to see a purpose to why they're there, which once again for all of our students, not just our academic students, is important. I already highlighted the Smart Futures. One of the things that we're very proud of, and it's been around somewhat for a good number of years. I know probably when Mr. McDonald was there, we were doing Adventures in Learning, Adventures in Careers. However, we've now expanded it. So Adventures in Learning, for example, this year, our students will have an opportunity to select between going to Mount St. Mary's, if they're more of a 4-year type of school, Hagerstown Business College, and we're actually currently working with a couple trade schools. So the students will have the opportunity to select where they'd rather see themselves going. We're still working through the process that if a student may be between the 2 options, I know that it's going to come up, but we can't necessarily do different days because it's going to start taking from different instructional days and things that are testing that's going on at that time. But for right now, our goal is to try to at least identify several different options for our students to pick and get an opportunity to get on a real college campus, have an opportunity to experience the dorms, the cafeteria, how all that works, along with those students who maybe more of a business college is a better option or a trade school, so they can see how those work. In 7th grade, our Adventures in Careers, we take all 380 to 400 students that we'll have over the next couple of years, and we actually pair them up with 2 different basically work-related experiences. So they may, for example, last year my own son was in 7th grade. He went to the courthouse, had an opportunity to see a trial, and then he had an opportunity to hear from a marketing professional and talk about sports marketing. So it's an opportunity for them to actually experience. We want them to go out and get an opportunity to hear from those people within their job. Sometimes we do have to bring people into the school because of space, obviously with 400 students. However, our goal is to get them out as much as we can. We're currently working with the local library, the town library. They were awarded a grant, so our goal actually now is to actually have our 6th graders actually go out just locally in Waynesboro and do almost the same kind of thing, but we won't be actually busing them. The kids that are in 7th grade, sometimes we've gone as far as Frederick and as far as Harrisburg to give the students the opportunity to be able to see that career, because sometimes we can't offer it locally, in Franklin County. Want to go to the next slide? All right, next is the high school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello again, folks. Thanks for letting us present this evening. I first want to show you something. It's a video. It's called our First Choice Friday video. If you follow our Facebook page, we have a section of it on our website, and sometimes we throw it on Twitter. What we do is we go around to the local businesses that have interns from the high school, or maybe someone doing a work experience from the high school, and we interview the student, and we interview typically their supervisor, who's at that local business. It's about a 2-minute clip that we always put out on Fridays. Again, we set this up through Tom Hoffman, and this young man actually is the owner of the gym, but he's also a WASH's graduate. So I'm going to just let Mr. Erickson take care of that.
Hello and welcome to another First Choice Friday video. Today we are at WBO Health and Fitness. Let's go in and find out how our WASH's intern is doing today.
How has this work experience benefited you?
This experience allowed me to make many connections through the community and help me with networking out for my future career.
Would you recommend this opportunity to other students?
Yes, I would, because it's a very effective way of networking.
How has your workplace benefited from having Jacob?
It's benefited in every way. Jake does a great job. You can tell he cares about what he does. Takes a lot of passion in being able to have the opportunity to be here, and he does great every day.
Would you recommend this program to other businesses?
Absolutely. I think what the school does with work release and all their work programs is fantastic. Having kids being able to come into a facility and work and get that experience prior to going out into the workforce is really beneficial.
So that again is called our First Choice Friday. We've been all over. We even went out to the water treatment facility out on Rattlesnake Run Road or something like that, and that was an interesting experience. But it's pretty cool to get out there and see. We have a young lady that just finished up this first semester out there, and she actually received a certification in that area. So that's something that we're still helping her explore what she can do with that, but now she has a certification from that. So we're pretty excited about all the opportunities. And it is neat to get out and meet individuals. Last week we went to Exit Realty and just to talk to the employees there, what they think about that's going on. They love it. Kids seem to like it. It's also building those bridges with the community and the businesses. So we've been thankful to have that opportunity. The next you'll see is our six domains of First Choice. I created this over the summer. Basically things that we have, but we kind of put them together more in their own domain. And we're selling that this year, and we're going to build on it every year is our plan and our hope. But you'll see this. I'm going to talk a little bit about what all they mean quickly, but then I'll show you a little more specific list as we get to the end of the presentation. The first piece is our personalized course selection. Realistically, at least since I've been at the high school and I was teaching high school, so let's say for the last 17 years, at the high school level, kids typically pick what courses they want to take. Freshmen have less selection, they have to pick, but they still are a part of that process. Well, now we're trying to go even further in this personalized piece with the proposed cluster that we have. We have 6 clusters that we are going to focus on in the proposed course selection book, and we'll go over the cluster here as well. But it's giving the students a focus on where they want to go post-high school. and trying to designate courses that we offer, courses we may bring up and develop that will help them get further along. So when they're, again, graduating from high school, they're maybe above some of their other peers that are graduating locally. So that's, again, with our clusters. It's something that the students have a part in, as something our counselors, our admin, parents also have a part in. We have an educational planning day that we started last year. We always had an educational planning night, but unfortunately, the 8th grade families would come and not really anyone else. So we wanted to make sure that every one of our students who would be coming here the next year, so that's our 9th to 11th graders, actually heard everything that was offered at the high school, because they weren't taking advantage of coming in the evening. So we have turned last year, and we'll do it again this year, one day where we create this, they're being educated on what we offer them. And our departments present it. We have our counselors do a piece during the day. Admin does a piece during the day. We make sure that every student understands the course selection process to the fullest. And then we hope that their parents come that evening to answer any other questions and to see a little more of what we do. So that's being actually this year put together by Mr. Mark Herb and Mr. Derek Null. They're going for their admin certificate, and they need some intern hours, and so the three of us been working to put that together. So we're excited about that. Again, that's at the end of February. Our internships, work experience, and certifications is a big piece with Mr. Hoffman. He's made great connections with the community. Dr. Klein has assisted in that. We have meetings with regional individuals, with local businesses, and I don't even know all the names of the different groups we've worked with and talked to, and how they have opened up doors for our students in our school. So the building relationship parts with all these organizations and companies has really helped our students build on these intern experiences, work experiences, and then even possible certifications. I mentioned the one with the water treatment facility. I looked at an email today from Mrs. Nemzik, and she finally got together with Shippensburg University. Jennifer Piles is her name, and Dr. Klein kind of started that rolling for us. Where we're looking to get some certification with CDA, and also possibly to get students credits, college credits from SHIP through this program while they're still at WASHES. So that's been a great piece. But again, just all these different connections that we're making, and they're seeing it as a benefit for them, and we're seeing it as a benefit for our students. So we've been excited about that, and that continues to grow. Early to college and college in the high school, we've had that again. Like, again, I think almost all these situations over the past 7 years at least, but now we're just trying again to expand. So early to college options, they continue to grow. We continue to advertise that. The bigger piece that we're hoping to move forward with next year are more courses at in college and the high school. Over the past 5 or 6 years, we've been working with HCC in their Essence program, and we've had one college course being taught by one of our teachers. That's Mr. Atkinson. He's been teaching the college algebra. He has a master's degree in mathematics, so he was able to do that. Dr. Klein connected us with Harrisburg University. They came and met with me early in the summer last year about starting some college and high school courses at WASHES. But they also opened up a computer science program over the summer that we were able to offer for free for our students. They built their own computer basically. They got free lunch every day for the whole week, and they got a stipend for it. So, I mean, they loved that. Harrisburg U wants to come back in again this summer and do that for our kids. And we got a wide range of students that came out to that. So that was pretty cool to see, and they really loved it. So college and the high school right now with Harrisburg U, right now we have, I believe, 3 AP courses that are going to connect in our math department. Mrs. Gieseman's going to be running with that. We have a few science teachers that have been meeting with Mr. Korn. He's from Harrisburg University. They're looking to go maybe 21 and 22 to start their courses. And then again, we have Mr. Atkinson's college algebra course. So we're really excited about that, because with Mrs. Gieseman's classes, they will, if they pay for the credits, I believe it's $100 a credit through Harrisburg University, they basically can leave that class after taking the AP exam. They could have the high school credit. They could have possibly, if they score high enough on the AP exam, possibly something that they can use to be exempted from at their college level, and then also those college credits from Harrisburg University. So we're excited about those options, and I'm excited that there are more teachers looking to go forward with that. Again, it just gives our students more. We're talking about how WAM students, they earn high school credits at WAMs. Well, so those students a lot of times are the ones that take advantage of those college credits when they're at the high school. Flexible cyber, we've done a lot more with cyber classes through Apex in-house. We, as all of you are aware, we kind of switched up our Strive and Endeavor programs this year, and I feel like it's been a positive talking to Mr. Lane and the teachers that are a part of that. We've grown that program. I think it does help, again, as Mr. Taylor noted, those students who maybe not would drop out, or they don't really like what the traditional look looks like, so they have come and continued in that. So we've been thankful for that. We also have students right now that may be in an Apex course, in their cyber course with Mr. Lane, but then that might be first, second, third period, then fourth, fifth, and sixth. They might be in a general class, in a traditional classroom, depending on their needs, their interests. I met with a parent today and their child, based on a situation that's come up with them, they have that blended schedule. And again, we have areas in the school where they can work, even if it's not in Mr. Lane's classroom. We've sometimes used the library for that, but it's something that I think is a trend that is growing nationwide, online learning, and just being able to have that option and that choice has been a very good thing, I think, for our students. Early graduation, I know maybe about 3 years ago, we allowed one student, he wanted to graduate early. He met all of his requirements. He wanted to join the Marines. It was mid-year, and we were able to write him a letter. The Marines accepted it, and he went off and served our nation. But we have more and more students that are looking to graduate early. I know Dr. Klein, that was one of his early initiatives that he brought up to the high school, that we wanted to give that opportunity to students. Not saying that we want every student to do that, but we want them to have the opportunity to do it. So with that, we've allowed students to, we created new classes that if they only maybe needed a credit or a credit and a half their senior year, we've doubled up on some classes to give them a full credit, maybe a year early or at least a semester early. We did that with English 12 this past year. So it's allowed some students to, again, graduate either typically mid-year their senior year. I had another young man, he's going into the Marines, I believe, next week. But again, we were able to write him a letter. They accept that, but he's met all his graduation requirements because we have allowed the creation of some of these courses for our students who want to get going with their lives out of high school. One thing that is being proposed too is a 21.5 credit requirement at WASH's. That's the minimum that you need in the state of Pennsylvania. A lot of schools that we have gone and visited that practice the first choice mentality, they have lessened those options. It's not that they only can get 21.5, but that's the requirement. Then we're hoping that if they don't choose to graduate early, either go to college, work, or in service, wherever their choice is, that then they will add those extra credits, because right now they can get up to 28 a year, just in the traditional classrooms. They hopefully will take those 21.5 and then add to it their first choice credits, the ones that really are going to help them with what they're doing post high school. So that's our hope. It's meeting the desire and the I guess vision, we can say, of first choice having that option early to graduate, but it's also allowing students more and more options to get those courses they want that will help them post high school. So we're kind of, I don't want to say killing one bird with two stones, but kind of, we're addressing two things with one option, hopefully. And then career exploration. We continue that with our college and career readiness class. It's taught in our business department. That's something that we've really expanded, and it has evolved over the years, maybe a couple different titles, and we're just adding more and more to it. Next year, we hope to make it just a 9th grade class and a mandatory 9th grade class. With that, also with when we're exploring careers, we have a grant. I think we got it. We're good. We're still waiting. But it's teacher in the workforce. So we have a plan to send out teachers within a 90-mile radius, I believe, to different places where they feel that it will connect with what they teach, and then bring that back. We're going to give them a day to put that all together in their lesson plans, the curriculum, work together with their peers to do that, and then hopefully be able to make real-world connections with careers and the content that they're teaching. So we're going with that. last year we had a career expo. We had 65 local business partners, I'll call them, because they have many businesses have worked with Tom over these past couple years, and they came in and they did presentations. We were able to address all those career clusters that the federal government puts out to all of our students that day. And our goal, or our plan, is to do a career expo every other year. So this year is a planning year, and we'll take some information that we gained last year, how to critique it and make it a little better. And we're already in that process. And again, Mr. Hoffman's doing a great job kind of guiding that process. But that will be hopefully next year with that. So again, these are 6 areas that we've had in place, and we're just trying to enhance every step of the way. Okay? Here are the 6 career clusters. I know you heard him mention by elementary and the middle school, the colors, how they align to the elementary's program. And so these are the 6 that this high school is proposing to go with. These are 6 that were combined out of 16. The 16 career clusters, again, are set by the federal government. We didn't want to have 16 different pathways, so we wanted to kind of combine and make it a little easier to choose for our students. And then in the middle there, you will see the breakdown of the required courses that we're proposing for next school year, to start with the class of 2024. But again, in our course selection guide, each cluster is described. We had a lot of teacher feedback and a lot of teacher participation to create what courses go into what cluster. They basically set that web that we made, and that was an awesome experience just for them to understand what each cluster was. They even created a career sheet that you'll see in the proposed selection guide, where it basically lists for all the different clusters possible careers for our students. So it's all right there for them. And again, this proposed cluster model, we're hoping that when a student comes out of WAMS, Mr. Burkhall's class, they'll know which direction they want to go in. Will they want to change their mind after 8th grade, after 9th grade, after 10th grade? Probably. That might happen. We're okay with that. You don't have to get stuck in one cluster. But our proposal is, if they stay with one cluster, they complete all that process, talking to our business advisory board, which we created this year with some local businesses. They believe that if they leave the high school with that additional training, that specific training in each cluster, and we're looking to give some type of certificate or something, that will benefit them if they're going right into the workforce above someone else who didn't have that specific training. So we're hopeful, again, and based on the feedback we've gotten from the local businesses, that will benefit our students if they can go through this process. So first choice is at WASH's. I kind of said a lot of these things, but I want to share them again. I mentioned about our business advisory. We have a nonprofit, a lawyer. We have some manufacturing professionals that are a part of this. It's 5 individuals. Some have students at WASH's, but we created that, and we kind of just go over what we're doing at the high school, what changes we're doing, what offerings we're offering, and then we get their feedback on anything they think we should be going toward as a school for our students. They give us feedback about what they're doing. I mean, it's just a lot of give and take in these meetings, so we've been very thankful to have that. That business advisory also came out and spoke to our teachers before we started the career cluster process of creating that. They came out and really laid things out for our teachers. So it was nice, not only for the administrators to kind of sell our vision with it, but also the business leaders were able to come out and share their thoughts on it. So we were thankful that they were able to kind of back us and support us where we were going. Again, I mentioned how the faculty has developed the career cluster courses. Again, a lot of times the courses that we already offered, they looked at those descriptions and say which one, where does it fit? One course might fit in all 6 clusters. And as you'll see when we discuss the proposed course selection guide, you'll see little circles in each course description, and those colors represent the cluster. Our professional development this year has been driven by the first choice vision and just where are we going and how are we going to get there at WASH's. We have, like I mentioned, the first choice personalized course selection guide for next year. We have first choice relationship days, which the board approved that we could do. We're doing 2 this year. We already did 1. It was very successful. The feedback from the teachers, they loved it. The students seemed to really respond well to it. There was a lot of team building experiences. It was also a time where teachers were able to demonstrate that they are people too. A lot of different things that they had hardships with growing up, they shared with our students. We did some video clips with Tribe Time, and it was just something that they were able to just really be real with our students, to understand that we all sometimes need someone, no matter who you are. And a lot of times when our students see us, they think I was born a principal or this or that. They don't have a real picture of who we are. So that's kind of been a very positive thing. We're going to do another one in late April. We have a team of 6 men that they wanted to run with this. So they've been doing an excellent job with that. They're pouring more students into this second relationship day to get more student involvement and feedback. So we're excited about that. And also during that day, our content leaders who have they've been going through the book Mindset, as was mentioned already by my colleagues, and they're going to do a school-wide activity with the mindset piece. And I've always kind of put the message out there about being an overcomer since I've been at WASHA, so that piece is going to be there on our relationship day in April. So we're excited to see where that goes. I mentioned already all those pieces about the internships, paid work experiences. There's the job shadowing that we do for the college and career readiness class, and then our first choice career expo that our first one was last year. Early to college courses, college and high school, flexible cyber again in those domains. Mentioned early graduation, our first choice Friday videos. Again, they might seem a little cheesy, but they're a way that, again, we want to show people what we're doing here and give our students even a voice of what they're doing, that they can show the community. The future of First Choice, hopefully at WASH, is one, an aviation program. You'll see that also listed in the proposed course selection guide. Dr. Klein, this was another thing that he really kind of was throwing some things at me, and there was a lot of interest in the community to see something with aviation at the high school. Well, we found this one program, AOPA, and I was shocked to learn that basically it's a national program, and their main training facilities in Frederick. And it's either $200 to $300 for a 3-day training. They give us all the curriculum, everything. They lay it out. It's a 4-year course. So it seemed kind of silly not to do it, one, because of the amount of money, but it gives students another option. They get a certificate, or they get a certification out of this program if they stick with it. Again, it's very cheap, and they give us everything we need. And then also, Dr. Klein's connected me with, like I said, a lot of people in the community that have that background, that are going to be additional resources to a course like that. I was very thankful. We had one of our physics teachers jump on this and said he really wants to go with this. He just reviewed the curriculum, and he was so excited because he likes to tinker probably with everything. I mean, he's very mechanical, and he said this is right up my alley. So he's even more excited about it now, so I'm thankful for that.
And Mr. Pappas,
yeah.
One of the community members offered to give the first 6 kids to sign up a free plane ride.
Oh, okay. We'll say that in our presentations.
Okay.
So, we have that. We're going to look to do, again, more additional flexible cyber courses to open those doors for our students to take. We're looking, again, like I mentioned, about additional college and high school courses with Harrisburg University. Harrisburg University, the reason that we're really focusing on them, they basically, the teacher just needs to have a master's degree. It doesn't have to be in that specific area, which is very hard to come by. I've never heard of that before, but they've explained themselves very well how they make it happen, and they are working with schools in this region doing all that. So it's not like we're going to be the startups with them just to see if it really works. But their program, the way they even work with the families, based on getting credits transferred to universities that they may want to go to, sounds like it's a very complete process. So I'm excited to see where that goes. We mentioned about the CDA certificate through Shippensburg. We did apply for junior ROTC, as everyone's aware here. We're basically, I would say, in the second stage of that. But it's been I think it's a waiting game, and I've heard that it could be. But we have put everything in that we're supposed to get sent to Fort Dix in New Jersey, and we're just kind of waiting for them. I mentioned about the teacher in the workplace, and that's that grant that I'm pretty hopeful. It seems like we probably got it. I think that's for $25,000, and again, that will help our our teachers get a view of what the real world, when it comes to different careers and how it connects to what they teach, is there. And it's also something that I think will benefit us through our ATSI process with the state, because we're told that we need to put more and more into the instruction that engages our students and shows them the connection to the real world. So I'm hoping that will benefit everyone. There's some one other thing I put up there. There's actually two other things that I should have added. But one is, we're looking now, if we get our cluster process in place, the next step would be looking at our grading system, and are we grading for mastery? And I know Aaron had mentioned something about mastery with MAP, but that's looking at our next big project at the high school about grading for mastery. And then also, as I mentioned here, common planning for all WASH's faculty. I know I've mentioned it to Dr. Klein. I'm excited to propose it to the board, not right this second, but soon. That I have a plan for a daily schedule that I believe will give common planning at the same time for every teacher at the high school. I feel like common planning is needed for many aspects in our building. We see the benefits of it at the elementary level. Maybe some of the I don't know if teams or grade levels do it at the middle school, but I think it would help us when it comes to co-teaching. It would help us as departments, and again, I think it will meet a lot of needs that our teachers sometimes say they want. So I'm excited to propose that in a future meeting. But I believe that is it.
Mr. Pappas.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way that you're starting to look at how you're going to measure whether our students are
Yes, we
getting
have a
those
survey
grades?
that we've created. It's a short survey, but we're going to give to our seniors this year. They're going to complete that. Trying to think of a way to do it where we may do it at graduation practice. We're not sure, because we'll know we'll have everyone there. But we're trying to create a plan for implementation, get as much honest opinions as we can. We could go through it's just hard with their classes because some of them don't all have the same type classes. We know if we do something when they're all together, we can get that done. So yes, we are implementing that survey this year to see.
Good.
So that will kind of be our baseline of where we're going with that.
Great.
Yep. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Josh, you're on.
I can't really follow that up with much. I don't really have near as much information, so I apologize in advance. But as far as the soap issue goes, that's slowly being resolved. I kind of spread the word to some people that was being taken care of with the new pumps, because some people gave me about that again. So that's going to die down. They're happy about that, to hear that news. Besides that, not really much going on. Happy School Board Appreciation Month, by the way. I realize that now. So we thank you all for all you do, and especially Abby and I on our behalf, because thank you for giving us this great opportunity, because it's definitely helped a lot just as far as communication goes, and also just having a voice in school district as well. So that's about it. So.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
All right, next up is board reports. I'll go first from academic. We met sometime last week, and a couple things we talked about. 3 of them are definitely going to be followed up on, which is the Latin Honor System, which we'll be looking at in more detail in a little while. Also try to hammer out what our vision for what driver's ed is going to look like. Talked about an early dismissal day that the elementary people were requesting, and also looked at the school calendar. So that was academic. Other board reports?
So
Mr.
we covered a number of topics, and you've seen the reports from that, so too many to go over right now, but you've had an opportunity to look at those reports.
Thank you for the minutes. It was nice.
Okay. Other committees? Anybody? Did policy didn't meet? Budget didn't meet? Okay. 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 So the next item is we are going to convene in an executive session. We will be back, of course. We are only halfway through. But we will, I guess, go to the conference room, I guess, and you guys can stay here. So we will be back sometime. Okay, next, sorry, that was a while. Next item is personnel. Dr. Sternerheim.
Okay, I'd like to direct your attention to the personnel information in your blue folder. We have a recommendation of professional staff, resignation of support staff, resignation of coaching staff, request for leave, additional request for leave, transfer support staff, appointment to support staff, correction of hours, continuation on the back page, resignation of support staff, appointment to coaching staff, request for leave, and recommendation is to approve as listed.
Any questions for Dr. Sternerheim? Motion? Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining from that. Anybody a nay vote? Okay. Next item, transportation. Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. For your discussion and action, we have 6 individuals on here. That's 5 additions and then 1 removal of a driver. These have met all the qualifications and requirements for working in the district and being with students.
Okay, questions there? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Tenure.
Okay, direct your attention.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was no motion?
So moved to act on the transportation driver acceptance.
Sorry.
Need a
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, now for tenure.
Right, direct your attention to page 6. Recommendation is to grant tenure to Chantel Myers, grade 1, Hooverville Elementary. Recommendation is to approve as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we neglected to put another item on, so I'm gonna ask that we have approval to add the first reading of policy 913, which is in your folder, simply to vote on that as a first reading. So if anybody would be so kind as to make a motion for that, I would.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so all those in favor of adding it to the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so now let's talk about the policy 913.
Okay, policy 913, we had just, actually it was, I believe that policy was redone back in September, October, or something like that. PSBA has gotten a number of complaints and questions about the policy, like 1 or 2 lines. So they have recommended that we make that change. They also recommended 220, but when we looked over 220 looked fine with how we had it. I think the question was 913, if I remember correctly, and changing a line in there, or making sure that we select what they have recommended we select. And it's all in bold there, so you can read it over, look it over. I actually have a call into our solicitor, and I'll be talking to him Thursday to get any feedback from him on it. But it is an issue, and PSBA is actually recommending that we make these changes.
Okay, so tonight we would just be simply voting on the first reading of it. So do we have a motion for that? Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Hopefully they get it right this
Okay,
time.
so if you have any questions, it'll be on for the second reading and the vote next board meeting. Okay, the next one that is still on there would be number 7 of the original, E7. Oh, no, it isn't, 4. We've got to talk about Latin honors proposal. Okay, and that would be Dr. Sternerheim, I assume?
Sure. This is a follow-up to the the Google slide presentation I provided in the board packet. We had talked about moving to Latin honor system. It was presented to the academic committee, and the entire presentation was shared with the board 2 weeks ago. If you look at your handout, there was information of that both are listed driver's ed information, which we are tabling at this point, and then the Latin honor recognition. So if you notice there's 3 different groups. We had quite a degree of discussion during the academic committee about these different 3 different categories. This would be the recognition upon graduation. Number 2 is recommending that the current 9th grade class is where this will go into effect. I know we've had some discussion about maybe not implementing it until with this current 8th grade group. Commencement cords will be purchased by the school, recognizing those 3 categories. Recognize at commencement, and students graduating after 11th grade will be able to recognize their GPA for 92 or higher. So this parallels the presentation, although we met as a high school admin team and looked at the actual percentages. We also had reached out to Mr. Taylor about honor roll, distinguished honor roll, high honor roll, and looking at making some changes moving forward as well.
Okay, let's have a motion on this, then we can discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, questions?
I have a question. Since this is gonna begin with current 9th graders, is there anybody in 9th grade that this would adversely affect?
They wouldn't get the honor.
Valedictorian, you know, because a course is taken or whatever.
I imagine there's probably someone in 9th grade who perhaps believes or would like to be valedictorian someday, but.
Well, but that's not.
Okay,
that,
I wanna clarify.
Yeah, that's not what I mean.
Okay.
What I mean is, so because of course selection thus far,
Okay.
would it make a difference to any individual with the GPA right now?
Yeah,
You
she's saying could you have chosen an honors or not, especially the weighted grades, right?
The weighted grades.
Yeah.
So
Could that have affected someone?
Does somebody in 9th grade have weighted grades right now? Because that would be the differentiation.
They could.
They could, yes, in an honors class.
So it
Yeah.
will enhance their GPA. I mean,
But they could have taken that because it was weighted,
sure, absolutely, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
and that's
Now,
my,
I definitely agree with the Latin honors recognition. I mean, so I'm not questioning that at all. It's just when, you know, if it's appropriate for this year's 8th graders or this year's 9th graders.
I guess the thinking, Linda, the original recommendation was with the 8th grade, we figured we're gonna open more opportunities, and we figured there's the chance, like obviously this year's juniors, do you know what I mean, they've got it planned out, sophomores might be there, but we were thinking there probably is very few freshmen that have it mapped out on the wall to be valedictorian.
Yeah, and that's really where I'm sort of coming from.
This gives more students recommendations for.
Oh, I like the system, absolutely, you know,
the academic committee was 3-1 for this, and I was the one for that exact reason, because I think the 9th graders went in thinking we're still gonna have a valedictorian, whereas next year's 8th graders are gonna know or next year's 9th graders, they're gonna be very clear that we don't have it, and I just don't like the idea of taking something away that we told them they would have, but I was the only one in the committee that felt that way. Any other questions?
I have a question. Mr. Pappas, you were not present at that
Correct.
last meeting, correct?
Correct.
And amongst us, we actually changed the actual numbers.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on that?
On the number change? I'm fine with it. We looked up the last 3 years just to see how many students would be recognized. One, with the first set of numbers, and we went by that first set of numbers based on what other schools do.
Okay.
We didn't just pick it out of nowhere.
Okay.
And then we looked at it with the new set of numbers. I think it still could recognize about 70 students possibly, which I think is a good number. In years past, when we did our medal, we did a medal for a GPA of 3.2 or higher. We were giving out a lot more medals than that.
Others? Okay then, I'm gonna do a voice vote on this, please. Ms. Kuzer, could you do the roll call?
Ms. Bechtel?
Yes.
Mrs. Rieker?
Yes.
Mr. Wenger?
Yes.
Mrs. Harold?
I'm supposed to go last, but that's okay. I'll vote no. I'm voting no for the reason that I said.
Mrs. Zimmerman?
Abstain.
Mrs. Strite?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Dr. Roy?
Yes.
And
Do you want to vote, Mrs. Sullivan? This is on the Latin honors.
Oh, yeah, I wanna vote yes for that.
Okay. Okay, next item. Now we're on to number 7, which is acting on the early dismissal to the school calendar.
Move to approve.
Second.
Questions for Dr. Sterner-Hein?
I do have a question. Did you say that it's the elementary school that would like that teacher?
It was initially an elementary proposal, that's how it was presented, however, it would be across the board, so both
Would it
middle.
have to be?
Oh, I thought he responded.
They had
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
they
we-
wanted to do.
Oh, the
The senior high,
secondary too.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, we did not entertain that idea. I mean, when we came up with it on the elementary perspective, I reached out both to Mr. Taylor, and Mr. Pappas, and Mr. McElwain, saying, are there potential issues with this? And, they both agreed that they could use additional PD time as well, so.
No, that answers it, because I thought you had said elementary teachers, and so I was wondering
No,
why
elementary,
secondary could not have a full day of
secondaries,
school.
and
But-
I guess we would have to run the buses additional, not that, we'd have to run the elementary students home, and then, so it'll be like, well, I guess we do that anyway, so.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is that in some cases, I imagine on early dismissal days, the older siblings
Take care
are
of
the
the young.
childcare, so. But we can always use additional professional development time.
Okay, other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, on to number 9, which is the LIU operating budget. Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. For your discussion and action, we have the IU operating budget. This is a normal process every year. The IU asks all the participating school districts to review their budget and approve it. Interestingly enough, you'll notice that we have a bit of a decrease this year. In a sense, it's good news, but in a sense, it's not, because essentially what they have done is taken some of those expenses and distributing them through the other model. So basically, the other model is where they're billing out per student for learning support, for autism, and things of that nature. So while certainly it looks like a really nice reduction, they basically kind of shifted some of those expenses over to other lines that will be charged through eventually. But the recommendation from the administration is to go ahead and approve the operating budget. Again, they're trying to work very hard on their budget and continue to try to decrease those costs. They've done a very good job of it, I think. The last 2 to 3 years, they've, I think, turned the corner in many ways. So.
You want to make any comments, Mr. McDonald, on that?
No, I agree. There's been a change of several key officers over there.
Yeah.
There's a new direction. There's a tightness that wasn't there before.
Mhm.
There's a cooperation that wasn't there before.
I agree.
And they're keenly aware of their position among the districts and the services they want to provide.
And Patty and I were at Learning Center joint committee. Well, Todd was there too, but we won't mention it. Patty and I were there.
I have to be there.
And it seemed to me like they were trying really hard to hold down their numbers and have classes that were more full rather than having a class for 1 or 2 kids. And I was actually pretty impressed.
They are
do a
listening.
good job.
They are
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah, sure.
The
They're listening.
new director, I would call the new director kind of dynamic.
That's exactly what I've heard from other people.
Yeah, very
Good.
much so.
And if I could even expand on that, what they're doing is they want to not only try to make sure those classes are maximized and full, but they're also giving the flexibility to school districts. If you want to operate it below what they would tell you is a financially affordable level, they'll allow you to do that as long as you're willing to pay the cost. But you'll pay the cost, not all the districts pay the cost.
Wow.
So again, a lot of flexibility there too. If a district wants to operate a classroom with 3 students in it and they feel there's value in that, they certainly would allow them to do that. But we wouldn't share in the cost burden of that.
Okay.
So, which is good.
Okay. All right,
So
motion.
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Financials, Mr. Holtzman.
Yes, ma'am. For your decision and action, we have bills for payment, purchase orders, and we have the normal budget income and expense account summaries for you.
Anybody have a question? I have a question. I'm sure I should know the answer to this. Do we pay for students to go to the Montessori school?
That's
We
busing.
do.
That's busing.
Yeah, busing, transportation.
We pay the busing.
Yeah.
Yes,
there.
that's what it is.
We actually pay busing.
How many
to
miles?
send
What's
kids
the
to
what's the distance?
10 miles from the nearest point
From the
on our
farthest
border.
away.
So, in fact, we had
We're
an
10 miles
example
from
the other day.
Gettysburg?
We had a parent whose child is now going to the school at the Scotland School, the old Scotland School. Now has a new private school that's opened up there. It's just over the 10 miles. Not a lot, but it is, even from the closest border. We had to make sure that we were following the rules, but it's 10 miles. We travel all the way down to Broadfording. We go to Emmitsburg.
Right, but
Yep.
Gettysburg seems a little far. This says
No, this
it
is
says
Get-
Gettysburg.
oh,
Yeah.
Gettysburg.
Page
We do have a
36.
We do have a Gettysburg student because it's a charter school.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's 10. That makes what difference
Yeah.
does it make? Isn't it still within the 10 miles?
Not for the charter
No,
school,
it's a-
unfortunately. It's just like a
it's a
normal
sub-
cyber charter school
yeah.
that we would have to pay
It's a
if they're
choice school.
online.
So we're paying $12,592 for how long?
Probably
6 months?
I'm trying to remember how many students we have in there off the top of my head. Our annual cost is about $10,000 for a student with a regular education. It's about $15,000-16,000 for special ed. But if there's more than one student in there, then obviously we'd be billed accordingly.
This is cyber charter?
No, this is a charter.
This is a Montessori. They were very smart and turned it into a charter.
Well, that was smart.
Except
Wow.
for now, they have to take any student.
Oh, they,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah, I was looking at some numbers earlier. I mean, in terms of cyber charter and charter schools, we spend about $1.7 million a year. And
Yeah.
actually, it's $9,700 this year for tuition for regular ed and $17,800 for special ed. What's interesting is we're, of course, as a frugal school district, it's based on what your costs are. We're one of the most frugal in the state. I picked on Lower Merion because they're towards the upper tier. Regular ed student, they're paying $20,000 per student to go to cyber charter school, and they're paying $52,000 for a student with special needs.
That's the kind of thing we need the paper to write down. I wish she was still here. Yeah.
Is that the only brick and mortar charter within our 10 miles?
As far as I'm aware, yes, ma'am, it is. Well, and what it is, I think that was a situation where the student was a cyber charter student there and moved into the district, if I remember correctly, and that's the situation. It was a little bit unique on that one.
That is just wrong. Okay. All right, that was my question. Anybody else have any other questions?
On page 24 and 25,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want names, but there's a long list of money for a certain teacher. Can you explain that?
Sure, 24 and 25.
In the the bottom and the top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my apologies. Those are, the names go at the bottom of each set of it. So it's actually, the top one is just.
Oh, so that's
It's
the
just
bus.
one,
Yes,
okay.
So that's the buses.
That one person isn't getting all that money.
No, ma'am. No, it's a
Oh
great
wow,
question.
she's making a lot of money. I do that all the time too, Bonnie. I do that too.
I have to tell you, that comes up probably about 3 or 4 times a year, and even sometimes when I look at it real fast, I think, why? And then I have to remember. it's at the bottom.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for the
No, I appreciate the
financials?
questions.
All right. If there's no other questions, all those in favor of approving the financials, please say aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion? I'm not
So
on my
moved.
game here tonight. Okay.
Mrs.
McDonald
1,000
and
degrees in here.
Sullivan. All right. Now all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I make a motion for a continental breakfast? Something like.
You weren't here when we used to be here till 11 o'clock, and Bonnie was here later.
Quarter after 12
We
one
want you
night.
to get the experience.
seems
You get the experience. All right, info items. Clayton cabinet comments. That's new.
Oh, that we.
Is that supposed to be
I'll
on there?
start. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a reminder, the policy committee is meeting February 12th at 1 p.m. And if you notice, we have our task list back up. We have quite a few. We have two that's still pending. One of them is redistricting that's not complete. We still have to get through the beginning of next year and all that. But, there are a couple of them that we have to finish. But again, if you look, it's all pretty solid. As a reminder to everybody, anything you guys ask us, kind of outside of the norm of what comes out of this board meeting goes up there, so we can keep track and remember what we have to do. Plus, you can see the number of things and what you've asked us to do. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And the second thing is that we have a retreat next week on I think it's Wednesday. Yes, I'm sorry. It has been a long meeting. It is a Wednesday, and yes, thank you. The 5th, and we'll start about 5:30. If you can be here, there'll be a little. You can order your dinner for the night through Aaron or online. And whenever you get here, if you're a little late, that's okay, because you can eat it once you get here. And we're going to kind of review what we did 2 years ago in our retreat and where we're at today compared to what you asked for back then. And then we'll look forward from that point. And but one other thing that we have to be able to do is be able to get you trained on board docs. So we have to figure out when would be a convenient time to do that. Would it help to do it before a board meeting? Since you're already going to be here, or try to get the board meeting over and do it afterwards, or I don't know. What would you like to do?
I say before, if we can.
Before?
Not the next one though.
Not the next one?
Don't you have to take what they can give you? Or can you be that picky?
I mean, I can give them a date,
And how long does it take?
roughly an hour.
I just think that we're quite a group and it'll probably take more than an hour.
Can you have a slow learners?
We are quite a group.
I hear you. I agree. I don't think an hour is good enough.
Guys have to be
Hey,
tiered.
we are quite a group.
Early breakfast.
How about a daytime time for us slow learners?
We only get an hour.
You
We only get an hour, right?
You only
Nick
get an
will
hour.
have to do remediation after.
Can we
I
look?
think it's best if we do the hour and then we can do remediation after.
Okay.
Can we check into a couple of dates with them that might
Two
work
or
before
Better
some
if I get
meetings?
dates from you and
Oh,
I
okay.
present it to her, because I presented her a few dates and none of them worked. So I need to work with her and.
Well, that's why I was wondering, would it be better to get some dates from her to look at,
Who's that?
if they match some of the meetings?
I could.
Why can't he do it? He's been doing this for months.
I don't know. Maybe he's not an expert. I don't know.
Can we set up a training, and then if some can't be there, you could help them from that? Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll work on a date and get it out, see where if everybody can make it, and we'll go from there.
What time do you prefer? 6?
They're saying before a board meeting.
Or the Tuesday that's off, it's
Um,
not,
Like the Tuesday off of a board meeting?
Okay.
Curtis, is it hardest for you?
yeah.
Depends on my schedule.
I think
Well, 7,
the rest of us have a little more flexibility.
yeah.
We could do it
Is
at
an off Tuesday work
7
for you?
on
What
an
works
off
best for
Tuesday.
you? Tuesday nights?
Sometimes it depends on the
Yeah.
week.
11th or the 25th? At this point?
Maybe the 11th.
I'll let you.
Is that the one you can't?
I can't do the 25th. Oh, no, the 25th. I could do the 25th. Oh, I'm lucky to get back to the meeting. No, I should be there. I can't do the.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the one I can't do.
How's the 18th?
Not, I can't come, but that's fine if I'm the only one.
Cause you could be the tutu.
I'll be the flunky class. That'd be fine. Alright, so what are we saying here? What do you wanna tell Nick? 18th? Remember, you could do an hour before the 11th. Then you're only coming once. Nobody likes that idea? Oh, you're not
Can't-
here then, yeah.
Curtis can't get here as early.
Okay.
I don't think I'm here on the 25th, so
I'll have to check my schedule.
the 18th sounds good to me.
I don't even learn how to use it anymore. Give me my hard
You'll
copy.
do an
Give me my
independent
hard
study.
copy. Yeah, I'll do independent study. Alright, so we're gonna say the 18th. Anybody else have a conflict with the 18th?
At what time? 6?
Well, we don't know. He's gotta check with the
Oh, all right.
person. So send that out, would you please, Nick, if that works? Okay.
Mr. Wenger, would 6:30 or 7 be better? Or is it?
Yes, it would. Let's see. 18th might actually work. It might actually be okay.
Okay.
Well, you can teach me. Okay, alright, anything else, Dr. Klein, or anybody
No,
else?
that's all I.
Well,
Question quick. Rita, open enrollment forms.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna, I
Yeah,
don't know-
where are they?
Okay, so can I wanted to talk about real quick.
Well, then
So-
you just go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm sorry. So basically, the elementary team as well as the Clayton team have been working with the redistricting process. What we did is we took the information that essentially has been provided, to the, in public presentations and created this question and answer. It should say draft. I actually took the draft off, but it's just a draft. So, we're gonna continuously add to this as we get additional questions, so it's for your review, and reference if these questions come up. In addition, we have created a number of letters that, will be distributed. There's a sample of a letter, in your packet as well, that, the elementary team met last, Friday, and, it was determined that, we thought it would be in our best interest to mail the letters, to the residents. So at one point, we went back and forth as to, are we only notifying, families that it does impact, or should we notify every family? And we thought it was probably in our best interest, making sure that everybody is notified. So, you will receive, every student in the district, in the elementary, it would be K to 4, because 5th graders would be, at WAMS. They will have a letter indicating, that, what their district, their home school is going to be. So if it's Summit View and it's still Summit View, it's going to say Summit View. We've also arranged for 2 different options for open house. At one point, we had decided on April 2nd, and there were some conflicts there. So what we're now providing, and this is sort of a, it was a part of a discussion during the academic committee. So on the Tuesday, the 17th, which is also an early dismissal day from 2:30 to 4, we're offering that opportunity for families to come in, and they're also offering time prior to PTO meetings. So we're giving 2 different opportunities for families to visit their new school. The open enrollment form is on the back of the one letter, just as a sample. And that the expectation is that we would, have them complete by, March, 27th, and that they would have to complete for each child, and that we're gonna be keeping a roster as we're receiving them. They would be notified via email the status of the request by July 20th, 2020.
So where are the open enrollment forms?
Right, they're
No, I
actually-
mean, like if a parent wants one, where do they get it?
They're gonna get it in their letter.
Oh, it'll be in their
Yeah, I'm
letter.
sorry, that was real
Okay.
easy, yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, we just decided to
Okay.
include it all together, so they're gonna have a letter notifying their school, giving them the option of, open enrollment, and then we also created another letter specifically for, 4th grade, because 4th grade going to 5th grade they've been given the opportunity to remain. So again, we're asking, getting that information back, and then, we were were fortunate to get the resident information from, Orbitz, and we did some restructuring, or we're looking at the different addresses and the configuration, so it's gonna be a work in progress. Yes, Dr. Royer?
I just have a question for you. So, I'm just gonna make up a scenario.
Okay,
So
I'll
if
try.
if I, lived on Clayton Avenue,
Mhm.
and my kids did not get to go to Summitview because at that point Summitview was full, and my kids went to Maori, are they now back at Summitview?
According to the attendance, yes.
So they would get a letter saying your child would go to Summitview, and then if they wanted to remain at Maori, then they would fill out the open enrollment form.
That is correct.
So there probably is a lot of families that were put in other schools because classes were full,
Yeah, oh, we've done it over the years, that is absolutely correct.
so there will be quite a few.
And in certain cases, like in two of the buildings that I worked, we would keep waiting lists, like, so sometimes we would say we were full, and they would go to another school, and then when there was an opening, they would come back, but that was not always the case.
Right,
We would oftentimes offer that. There was also families who have elected to split families, like, so in other words, they had 3 different students, they felt very strongly that they wanted to go to Hooverville, and then, so they had 2 students at Hooverville and 1 at Summitview until we were able to create space. So the next step in our process is really looking at, all the daycare facilities and seeing, like from a transportation perspective, like what's transportation gonna look like? With the reconfiguration. And that, I don't think that applies to the parent who spoke today because it's a private daycare. But we'll be looking at that information as well. So, we're eagerly waiting to get this information back in and have an understanding. It's also communicating question and answer. If you have a child who attends a specific school due to special services, that child will continue to attend for those services.
The questions,
Any special services, like even learning support?
No, not learning, I'm sorry.
This would be
Like-
specific.
like-
Just specific?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, are you the point person? If somebody calls me with a question, should I send them to you?
We could try, that is absolutely correct. What we're gonna try to do is push out as much information on the website. My first response would be check the website, or here's a link to a
But
website.
they already did that, and their question is so specific.
Okay. And we've been tracking, and right now we're up to 5 questions. We've had 5 questions, like we're tracking every question at this point. So I would think specifically, like they could probably maybe have a building, well, we'll talk afterwards. Like a building principal, we're trying to.
I'll tell them to call Emily.
And we have scripts, we already have scripts developed across the board, because it's important that we deliver a consistent message. So I guess moving forward, look over this question and answer. If you get additional questions, we'll keep adding them.
Yeah, I think that's a good
And
idea.
then we'll have those, keep updating those to the website, and I would direct a person there first before you might speculate, because that's the worst thing we could do.
Is that on the website?
Not yet, this is a draft, so.
And I'm not trying to be critical, but where are we, can we make sure we put it somewhere that we know can find it?
So, we can put it on, like, every elementary
Yeah,
site.
maybe that's, on each elementary page, you think?
Yeah. We can, so, yeah.
Well, it's like Karen said, some of these things we're just gonna have to be a bit flexible on. Or maybe it was Todd that.
no, I said that, and we need to talk about that, but,
So,
not
I think,
now, I don't think.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was gonna say, I think the question about open enrollment, can I apply for, an option, wherever it says no, like it says, can I apply at Summit View or Hooverville? I would say no, not at this time, or not for next year, because who knows down the road? I mean, it's
Right
supposed
now,
to
our
be
only
because of
flexible ones,
attendance, and if
right.
attendance changes, that would change.
So
So that's
not-
the top of the second sheet.
So I can you would like me to change it, not or the
Not
two?
for next year, not at the moment. No, the open enrollment is not,
Currently, no.
currently not available at Summit View and Hooverville.
Sure. Yeah, and so if anyone else have any, like, if you have any other questions people have asked you, just email them to me or whatever, and I'll keep this as an ongoing document. And then the letters, I believe we're gonna mail merge everything, and they should be going home, I believe, on Friday. I'm looking at my elementary, I think Friday.
That'd be good for us to know.
And
when
they're going home on Friday,
I'll
and
be
then,
doing the Borough Blast.
yeah, Dr. Klein's doing a borough blast so that we'll know. And then the other part of it is that, you know, that there will probably be some letters returned to us, and so at that time, we would definitely be notified if the address is no longer valid.
So you're gonna put return address requested on there? You have to have the envelope stamped with something. If you wanted,
Okay, Nick's on that part.
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause if not, it'll just sit there.
Yeah, you're doing bulk mail, right?
No, we don't.
Well, we're determining how I'm going to do it.
Well, you don't have to do it, I don't think you have to do it for regular mail, you have to do it for bulk mail.
Well,
No, you have to.
I have to do it for all my bills.
But if there's a return address on it,
Yeah, cause you want those back, cause some
regular
people
mail,
have
there's
moved and
Well,
this way you'll
Sure,
find
but
out.
we'll be collecting them as we get them and keeping, you know, cause we have our list of students we're expecting, you know, and so that we're gonna cross-reference those. So, you know, at the end of the day, by the deadline, if we're still missing like 50 or 75, we're gonna definitely follow up with those individuals.
Okay, good for now? Okay, anything else? Reports?
Okay.
Okay, then, anyone like to speak? No? Okay. Oh, you would like to speak? Okay, sorry, Colleen. So sorry. I thought you were here as like the union person or
I am,
something.
actually.
Oh, okay,
I'm
okay.
Colleen Glenn, 243 Ringgold Street, and on behalf of WAEA, we just want to thank you for your support and all that you do for our learners in our district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And she has to be at work in the morning.
Okay,
she gets it kind of.
so we're now gonna go into executive session, and we will not be back. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.